I absolutely did not need another car, but this one belonged to my grandparents. So I flew to Alabama and decided to drive it 2,000 miles home. So I'm packing for another trip to Alabama to pick up my grandma's car. It's actually a car that Grandpa bought her. She was German. And he was a Ford fan. Grandpa was, but I had grown an interest in BMWs and kind of hyped up on them a little bit. And you know, they've always had Fords, being the Ford crowd that they were. Grandpa found a little 3 Series convertible, really low miles, and bought it really for Grandma. Again, at least he said it was for Grandma. They only had it for a short time before she wasn't able to drive it. I think maybe she drove it twice. This is going to be an interesting trip, so what I'm going to do is I am flying out there and I will be driving it back. And I picked the hottest week to do it, apparently. And it's been running around 100 here, 100 down in Bessemer, Alabama. And so all the way through Tucson and Arizona, it looks like I'm going to be running 108, 110 degrees. So hopefully this little car, it's been sitting for over a year since my grandmother passed in October of... No, actually a little less than a year, but in October is when I lost her. So it has been sitting. So we'll see where this trip takes us. I'm looking forward to it because this is going to be a solo trip. Looking forward to driving 2,000 miles cross country on my own. Gonna get a couple maintenance things done to it while I'm there. You know, tires, oil change, everything else I think will be fine by the time I get home. And then I can go through everything else. Because again, it's a baby in miles, not year. It's 2012, but it's only got 50 some odd thousand miles, so it's got definitely some life in it. But being down south, you know, the oil probably got some moisture in it just because of the humidity. Same thing with the brake fluid, which is why I didn't want to take a chance on that. I'm sure it would have been fine if I would have just topped it off, and it is kind of weird to have someone do it because I am totally capable of doing it, but I didn't want to end up having my uncle stuck with getting rid of some brake fluid and some oil and, you know, messing up his shop and stuff. It's not what I'm going down there for. But yeah, we'll see how this trip goes. Looking forward to it. Gives me a chance to break away from work and the monotony of life sometimes. I'm sure I'm going to break down mentally a couple times just because I'm not a big fan of Alabama, but Alabama's associated to them, which is what's going to spark some memories, probably some depression, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, so I'm just going to continue packing. I'm gonna fly out there and see how it goes. You know, one of the weirdest things too is they used to get super excited. Like I said, I never really enjoyed Alabama, but anytime I could go visit my grandparents, it excited me. And it's a little hard on this one because they're not there. And to be honest with you, I should have went and picked up the car earlier in the year, but to go back, it's gonna be an emotional experience. I mean, even just tracking where I'm gonna go down south, I can just remember trips that I took with them, places we've been. Like I said, just showing up to the house and the shop, and neither one is there. It's gonna be different. Welcome to being 40. It's all a downhill from here, as I've heard. But I can say that Grandma and Grandpa were my biggest advocates in life, cheerleaders, I would say. And some people resent me for it, family members, but I would have done anything for those two people, and did. I tried to anyway. I loved buying them things, taking them places just like they did for us when we were little. They're the ones who really got me started in vehicles. My grandpa was a truck driver. I remember sitting on his knee in a semi driving. And same thing, tractors. He had tractors he'd always take us out on. Bicycles. What are you getting into? And then there's little feet. You're a brat. You're a brat. But you're making Mom feel better. You are. You could feel it too. You could sense it. You could sense Mom was getting depressed. And that's the thing, is people get so excited. Oh, what am I going to inherit? I really don't care about the car. It's the people that are behind the car. And I would trade thousands to have them back. Because I used to talk to Grandma every week. And after Grandpa passed, it was twice, 3 times a week, just to keep her company, make sure she was doing okay. And I know it's cliche, some people you hear online, oh, my grandparents, oh, they're my best friend, but my grandma's literally was my best friend. We'd swap recipes. I actually went through my recipe box and found handwritten ones that she had written me with I love you in Sanford, and I don't know, I'm gonna make some book out of them to keep her with me. I can't take you with me. Get out of there. I can't. No. You got an adventure coming in September. I promise. I promise you. I do. Get down. You are a stinking brat. No. This is what brats do. So here I am at Aldi because I found out that the car doesn't run staggered, or it runs staggered, and I ordered square 17-inch and they're 18-inch. So we'll be back tomorrow.
Much later.
Okay, so today was a busy day. I went out to Tuscaloosa and got the oil changed and the brake fluid changed, which was funny because yesterday, as I was driving around, it actually gave me the warning to change those two. The other thing is it's still got like a service light on, but that's just like the 50,000 mile service that we'll get to when we get back to California. But BMW did a full diagnostics and didn't see anything wrong with it, so we're good there. The other thing that we did, or I did, was take it to discount. I actually went to discount yesterday, and the tires that I ordered previously were squared, which wasn't correct. I was hopefully being cheap and was hoping for the 17s, but the car actually has 18s and it was running staggered, so they had to order in some tires. Then I get here today and they're still off. There was an inventory mix up, so instead of 255s on the back, we've got 235s on the back. Still 225s in the front. So we're still running slightly staggered. I'd like to run it staggered, but this will get us to California. So yeah, I'm gonna go spend one more night with my uncle and head back to California. See if we don't run into any issues, but I don't see any issues happening because it's a baby. I literally passed 51,000 miles yesterday. So it's definitely been an old guy's car. It's definitely gonna want its cobwebs blown out of it, and it's been doing pretty good. So, all right, we'll continue down the road. And obviously, for our last night, I'm gonna go get some frozen pizzas from my favorite place, Aldi. Got the pizza. Okay, so I made it to Marshall, Texas. So that was a pretty good start. I didn't leave Bessemer until about 2-3 p.m. We'll pack up some things from Grandma that I'm sure I'll show and Deming talk about along the way, but had no hiccups with the car, and everything was smooth. I only stopped for gas once, and I just got gas before getting checked into the hotel. But we will hit the road again in the morning. I'm hoping to get at least past Albuquerque or even further. I'm hoping Arizona tomorrow so that I can be home on Monday. But car's running beautifully.
Haven't had to do anything. I mean, I hit some fucking potholes that I thought I was gonna damage something, but nothing that I could see. But yeah, so it's a really nice hotel, so I can't complain. Very nice. Thanks, Clarion. Alright. Probably not the best lighting, so I apologize, but, headed out. It's about 8 a.m. at home, 10 a.m. here in Marshall, Texas. So my goal is, I'm hoping that I can get to Deming, New Mexico, possibly even Lordsburg, but we'll see. It's already 94 degrees. But car's doing good, got a full tank of gas, had some grits this morning, which, you know, I know most Southern Californians are like, what's a grit? But, yeah, so we'll see how it goes. So far I'm enjoying just the solitude of being by myself with my car and thinking of my grandparents. So I'll check in throughout the day. Probably mainly memories that come about from my grandparents. I mean, I've got tons of their, not tons, but some of their belongings in here that gives me reminders, but they're the ones who gave me my little bit of adventurousness. Not quite like my husband, but I do try. So, alright, check in later. Alright, so we have stopped in Merkel? I guess what's called? Merkel, Texas, and they've got 343 miles divided by 13.29. Alright, this one wasn't so good. So the first tank I got like 23 miles a gallon. Second was 27. This was 25.9. Not doing as well as I thought it would, but I'm also not doing the speed limit. I'm going a little faster. So, but that is okay. I don't expect it to have a great gas mileage since it's been sitting. I'm sure the injectors need to blow out. Yeah, this is some desolate shit right here. I don't know. I hope they have bathrooms. I have to pee. Driving 343 miles without stopping. Yeah, so we'll be on the road again shortly. Alright, I'm in Merkel at Alsops. I wanted to go a little further, but I really had to pee. It hasn't been too bad. I got, like I said, less gas mileage on this one. I only hit one section of construction, but it was only like a 4-minute delay. But I tell you what, there's been some windmill blades being hauled that have been clogging up the highway, but see if we can avoid some of those this time around. Yeah, so I'm hoping that maybe I can get through New Mexico, or get to New Mexico in this next round. So we'll see. I've only got 268 miles left of Texas, which I want to get the hell out of Texas. Not a big fan. Alright, so I made it to Van Horn, Texas. Gassed up, got about 26 miles a gallon, which isn't too bad. Considering I was doing like 80 miles an hour the entire time. And, or a little over 80. So now I'm gonna hit the road. I'm gonna try to get to Deming, New Mexico, and if I can push it, I may do Lordsburg. So then I get a shorter trip tomorrow. So we'll see. I'll catch you up. I am not very good at recording. And I did get some driving footage here in Texas and my driving today, but the one camera died. So sorry if this looks a little awkward. Also just trying to get used to filming. It just feels weird. But I am about 200 miles from El Paso, still driving down the 20. And it is hotter than hell. It's 103 degrees. And it's been pretty hot all the way through here. It just keeps bouncing around. 103 has been the highest so far, but we keep bouncing around down to 98 when there's a cloud. There hasn't been a cloud in a while. Now, what made me want to take this trip from Alabama to San Diego all by myself is not just for the adventure, but also in just remembrance of my grandparents that I lost both last year. The reason I'm bringing the car back. Do I need another car? Obviously not, because I mean, we have many. But there's just things that remind you of your grandparents. And the last time I took Grandma to the store, or we'll say she wanted to go to Kohl's, she was like, oh, I want to take the BMW. And I took her in this, and instead of going to her normal Kohl's down in, I think, Hueytown area, I went all the way over to Hoover. And she was like, this is the wrong one. Oh, man. And so her favorite story was telling everybody that, you know, her granddaughter took her all over to town, way out of, you know, where we were supposed to go. Like I said, Grandpa bought this for Grandma. So he had multiple cars that he was restoring. So he had like the 52 Ford F1 as well as a 41 Chevy Coupe, which was actually his first car that he had, which is why I kind of got him to buy it. But he saw this, and I did a lot of talking about BMWs because I fell in love with them back in, you know, my 20s when we first bought a 70, I think it was 78 535i, and we loved it. Absolutely made me understand why BMWs are the, you know, what they are. I mean, it had fuel injection, with, you know, there was no fuel injection in the US at that time. So they were ahead of the game, and Grandpa was always a Ford person, but I've been talking about it, and you know, and he saw this one for sale. I think it was on, you know, either Craigslist or Marketplace, whatever. And he's like, I'm gonna buy that for Mom. It had been pretty much garaged. The previous owner was what I was told was the only owner, the original owner of it, and
Took really good care of it. Obviously, it didn't put very many miles on it. I think when Grandpa bought it, it only had 41,000, maybe even a little bit more than that. In, I think it was 2020 when Grandpa bought it. But then at the same time, like, Grandma had lost her feeling in her feet and she wasn't driving anymore. Like right at the time that he bought this. So she only got to drive it one time. And she was also terrified of it because it is pretty quick. I mean, pretty spunky if you've gone from a Toyota, like she had the 2020 Toyota Tundra as well as a 2013 Ford Explorer. It's a different driving style. It's quicker, you're lower to the ground, so it's a little different. But one of my favorite fond memories is just taking her all over town and her in that passenger seat. And this whole time, just like driving along, I see her sitting there. And my grandma was, like I said, German, very opinionated, did not care about hurting your feelings, told it like it is, which is, you know, why I fucking loved her, of course. And we hit another one-laner in all Texas. So Grandma was, like I said, very like outspoken, tough, had that German, you know, personality, and it's just something I grew up with. And I don't think we got along as well when I was younger. She did teach me a lot. I also know kids are a pain in the ass too, and I'm sure I was a pain in the ass. But she taught me, like, she did painting. She was always a crafty person. We did crafts, we played board games, because she would babysit us after school. And we'd be outside riding bikes and she'd be inside, and she was an excellent cook. Loved Southern food, you know, because that's where Grandpa was born and raised, and kind of her introduction to America when she came over here. So I learned to do cooking with, you know, from her, as well as like crafts. And even last year, her and I talked about a certain painting that she had in her house, and like, how could I, you know, paint something similar in my own, you know, style. And that's one of the things I had to grab while I was down here, is I've got that painting in the back, because that was the last. I came out in April of 2025, which was like 4 months after we lost Grandpa. And I was just talking to her about it. And that was my last, like, in-depth, you know, conversation about a painting or artwork. All I gotta say is, if you've got grandparents out there, spend every minute with them, because I definitely have no regrets. I tried to make it down there as often as I could, outside of, you know, work stopping me, because, you know, you've got a certain amount of vacation time. I know some folks, like in our family, believe like, well, they moved down south, so it's on them. But that's just not a good way to be, considering everybody gets to live where they want, and they don't need to live right next to their grandkids, right next to their kids. Like, live life. But they always, like, made an effort to come out when they could to see us. And it might have not been every year, because Grandpa wasn't making a ton of money. But they attempt, you know, they would try. And it's one of those things, family you can treat them just like you do friends. You only keep those around that put the same effort in. If it's one-sided, it's not really a relationship. But it was weird this time going down there. Like, I love my uncle, but it's not the same. I've never liked Alabama, but when I was younger, I didn't get out a whole lot, see new states. The only place that I knew was Alabama. When we went down one summer, we spent like 6 weeks with them while my parents were closing on a house. And I would always get excited to go to Alabama because of them, though. To go see them, not Alabama. And it hurt a little bit this year going because, you know, they used to drive me and my brother around Hoover and Bessemer, Birmingham, and all those areas. And the last few years that I've been out there, I was driving them around, and I was actually learning the area. I wasn't having to use Google Maps or anything to get them to their doctor's appointments or anything like that. But it was the moments with them that I enjoyed, not the South. I'll be honest with you, there's no way in hell I'd live down there. But that's literally the excitement, was just getting to see them when I get to go down there. And I miss it. I miss them so much. And then I wanted to get a couple things from, you know, their state, I guess we'll call it. But things that meant something to me or that'll remind me of them. I have no desire for anything that was like, you know, worth money or anything. I just don't care about that shit. I would give up all of this stuff just to have them back. One thing I got, Grandma, she loved quilts. And I love quilts, so there's nothing else I will sleep under. So I did grab one of her quilts. But that was like one of my childhood memories too, was when I got to spend the night at Grandma and Grandpa's and being just covered up in a quilt, and it had that smell of Grandma's house. And one story that always cracks me up with her too, and this was the German impatientness / you know, tell it like it is she was upset with me. One time she was trying to teach me to paint, and she let me paint on a canvas, which, you know, canvases aren't cheap, especially if it's like stretched over the wood frame. And I painted a flower, and I made the petals multicolored. So, you know, yellow petal, you know, blue petal. Oh, she came undone. She came down on me. She's like, that's not realistic. That's not what flowers look like. That is not like, yo, you used my canvas for this, and all blah. And I mean, just went off. And at the time, you know, as a kid, you're 7, 8 years old, going like, oh my God, you're yelling at me. And now I laugh at it because it's just who she was. And I don't know. Did it give me somewhat of like a self-deprecating type of, you know, personality? Yeah. But, same time, I will say it toughened me up with her attitude. But there'd be times like that, and then there'd be other times where we would bake cookies. And I have this picture of me. We made these little gingerbread men and used like chocolate chips to do the hands and the eyes and the nose and stuff. And I look at that picture and I can still smell those cookies from it. And then there's pictures of like my brother and I in their house, and just grandma always had just good food. It was either Southern food or German, and biscuits and gravy. That was one thing, like one of the first things that I learned was how to make biscuits. Just a Southern all-purpose flour, baking soda risen biscuit, and now Stanford can do them better than I can. But I could always talk to them, and that was the one thing that I talked to them once a week. Sometimes I'd go, a couple weeks without calling if I had like a super busy schedule. Like when I was in college, I was working 40 hours a week plus going to school full time so that I could pay for it along the way. And I could always call them with my troubles, someone to talk to, someone to walk me through like what my options should be, like, bounce ideas off of. And one thing I loved about them is they were honest. Completely honest. My grandpa did some shitty things in his past, especially to my grandma, and he admitted to it. Did he, could have done better towards the end? Definitely still. But he was making improvements. I mean, he was like helping, clean and do dishes and stuff, but it was mainly because grandma's health, really went down after she got seizures and all of that. But they were always my rock, as in the people I could go to, and it was never money. I never borrowed money from my grandparents. I know when I'd fly down there, or we'd fly down there, Grandpa would be like, "Oh, I'll pay for your plane ticket." And at times he did. He tried to give me the cash, but they had this little flour container that came from Germany sitting on the wall, and they would put their money, a stash of money in there. And for some reason a receipt to a gun. I don't know why it was in there. So I found that when we were going through stuff after Grandma passed. But I remember he'd give me the cash for the plane ticket, and then while he wasn't looking, I'd stick it back in that flour safe. And so I wanted to go down there to them. They did not need to pay my way, because it was literally just to show up for them. It was funny, Grandpa in the last 5-6 years was getting a little adventurous with food. He wanted to try new things, and so I started cooking things for them. So it was either he wanted to make homemade tamales, because the tamales you get from the store or whatever, obviously have way more masa than they have meat. And I was like, "Well, Grandpa, let's do it." Him and I were in the kitchen, and I cooked, we cooked it up. But what was funny with him and Grandma both have no patience. He was following the recipe for the masa, and then skipped a whole bunch of ingredients. And was like, "Oh, I think it's not." I was like, "Grandpa, you forgot salt, you forgot half the lard." So I'd stop him, slow him down a little bit. And we got out a steamer that they had bought who knows how many years ago, and they never used it. So we steamed up some tamales. And then when Grandpa passed, there were some things that Grandma had always been more of an adventurous eater. Grandpa was kind of, I want to say, picky. And so I will say, after Grandpa passed, Grandma really wanted to get into trying new things. And when I came out in April, I would do the cooking. I mean, she did cook a couple nights, and I cooked a couple nights, but one of the things I did is one of the things that we make at home all the time is a grandma's pizza, which is just, dough in a pan of olive oil,
your toppings, throw it in the oven at 400 degrees for 20 minutes, and it's so good. It's so much better than store-bought pizza, and it just tastes more fresh. And I was like, I'm gonna make Grandma one. And I made her one, but I made it like Neapolitan style with, the big giant pieces of, mozzarella. We didn't put any pepperoni or anything on there, just tomato sauce, mozzarella, and some spices. And she was like, oh, this is so good. And just giving her happiness made me so happy. Yeah, and then we also did like toads in a hole, which didn't come out real well. We kind of overcooked the sausage, but we both ate it. It was fine. We were like, well, this could have been better, but it was all experiment. And one of the things, like Christmas cookies that I make every year, is because of Grandma too. I love German food. I love like Lebkuchens. German and European sweets, I think, are just better than Americans because it's not as sweet. It's got more herbs and more spices. I really perfected them, and she was my guidance on it. So I'd make a recipe and send it and get her opinion because she was over in Germany. She knows what they're supposed to taste like, especially like Springerle. I haven't had a real Springerle. It's literally, I was basing it off of Grandma. I'd make it, send it to her, and get her opinion on it, and then tweak my recipe a little bit and get her opinion on it again. And just made me happy, the last, few years, she'd tell me just how good the Lebkuchens are, and she would, sneak them, try to sneak some past Grandpa so he wouldn't eat all the cookies. Because I'd always send them, a box of them, but I miss them. But my grandparents lived in Colorado, and they made the trip to Alabama multiple times. So every time I'm on a road trip, because they always had stories of all the road trips that they took, because Grandpa would get shipped off another country, because he was in the Army. Either Grandma and my mom and her brother would go, or they'd stay out here, and they would either live with my grandpa's, family down south, or, alone. And I know Grandpa and Grandma, they ended up settling when my uncle was in 5th grade. My mom was probably 7th grade. They, settled down in Colorado, starting in Byers, and eventually moved out to the Strasburg area. But his family, Grandpa's family, is still down here, so they made the trip all the time. My uncles made the trip multiple times. My parents have made it a couple times. But Grandma and Grandpa always had just stories, amazing stories of the struggles. And, when Grandma and my mom and uncle got here in Washington State, and they had to drive all the way back, and how their car broke down, and Grandpa ended up having to pay the guy with a pack of cigarettes because he didn't have any money. It's just, I don't know, I love stories like that, and I'm gonna miss them, but I tried to absorb as much of those as I could. So, we're ready to hit the road. It's 9:30, 8:30 at home. It's 84 degrees. And I'm going to stop at Walmart because today's going to be the hottest days, or the hottest day. So I'm going to pick up a fire extinguisher just in case. I don't think anything's going to happen, but rather be safe than sorry. And then I'm also going to pick up a fuel additive just to see if, maybe I can help with some of the gas mileage, get the injectors cleaned out. And then fix a flat just in case that happens. But yeah, 9 hours from home, so we don't have much to go, but it's going to be fucking hot. So I'm probably going to get a big old jug of water while I'm there too. So, alright, I'll keep you posted on the road. So I'm driving through Tucson right now, and the highest temperature that I've seen so far is 107 degrees. And I know I'm not even at the worst part yet, because I know when I get to the desert near Phoenix and Yuma, it's supposed to be up to like 114. So I hope the little car does good. I actually turned down the air conditioner. I like to, run it around 70, but I bumped it up to 77 just to give it a little bit of a break, so it doesn't have to drive and also keep me cool. So, but all you folks that live here in Arizona, I don't know how you do it. I would have to be a snowbird because this is just fucking awful. It's one of those things like, I know I left Wyoming to get away from snow, but I can always layer up, but you can't. You can only get so naked to cool off. This is just ridiculous. Yeah, I'll check in when we get further on down the road. So I am currently in Arizona in the hottest freaking part. So bottom part of the Mojave. I stopped and got gas about 70 miles ago back in Dateland, Arizona. And when I got out of the car, it was 115 degrees. And so far, it's gotten up to, on the dash, 118 degrees. That's ridiculous. And I see people living out here. It's so crazy to me. And the car's taking it pretty good, actually. Like, I've been watching the oil temp, and it sits around the 250, but it starts creeping past 250. And then, once in a while, you get like a nice breeze and it hits back to 250. But problem that I have is I know these oil gauges aren't exact, like the old school gauges that literally told you when something was bad. They kind of dial these back so that people don't panic, so it might even be warmer than what's showing. But so far so good. One thing I did notice is like when I pulled out of the parking lot, the tires are definitely soft. Same thing with the brakes. I barely made the stop sign. Yeah, this is just freaking hot now, and I can feel it. Like, again, I'm keeping the air conditioner kind of high so that the car doesn't have to put so much work into it. And I'm probably making a big deal out of it. It's only a 13-year-old car, but I still want to treat it right. It might be a baby in miles, but it's also been doing a lot of sitting. So, yeah, this is awful. Like, to me, this is Mother Nature telling you to get the fuck out. Yeah, this is literally like Mother Nature trying to give us a hint to move on. You're not meant to be here. It reminds me, though, of Grandpa, because he was a truck driver, and he always had stories of coming across the different states and seeing different things. And I think that's what I generally like about road trips, is it's an adventure. You get to see all kinds of stuff. The only thing I think's weird is Dateland. The travel center. It's not truly in Dateland. Be drinking a date shake out here? in this heat, it's just crazy. I get it. It's like ice cream and cold, but dates when there's like not a bathroom in sight, nah, not gonna happen. But I did tell Sanford that when I get home, I'm definitely gonna want ice cream after dinner tonight. This is crazy. But yeah, I'm only 30 miles to Yuma. So I only got about 219 miles to San Diego, but obviously I'm not going to San Diego. Gonna be headed to Ramona, but I think I'm gonna take the 8 instead of going the back way through Octio Wells, then up through Julian. Gonna give I know it's probably gonna be hotter the lower route, but at least the car's not having to climb hills. I know Octio Wells gets pretty friggin' hot, but then the car has to climb the hills to Julian. So I'm just gonna take it easy on it. Alright, so made it here in Ramona at about 6 o'clock, 6:01, and got a nice heat rash from all of that heat, but at least it's 89 degrees. So, but now it was a quick 3 days and I had fun, but yeah, well, now it's home. Hopefully it's forever home, and get it cleaned up, and maybe it'll end up in some of our videos. So, and we're home in the shade.